Confident Computing number 808, the biggest risk to your privacy. Hi everyone, I'm Leo Notenboom. I've been answering questions at askleo.com since 2003, believe it or not. And this is the 808th edition of my weekly newsletter. The featured article, the biggest risk to your privacy. You know, we like to point the finger at technology when things go wrong, and often enough, it's not a bad default answer. Computers do have problems, software has bugs, and issues come up. But when it comes to your privacy in particular, it's usually not the technology, it's something else. And that's what the biggest risk to your privacy, this week's featured story, is all about. Also this week, it's funny, we talk about, computer geeks and people doing their thing in technology. They have this stereotypical view or vision of being isolated and working on their computers and so forth. Are human relationship skills important in tech is an article I wrote a couple of years ago in response to a mother, actually, who was trying to make a point to her son who was considering a career in technology. And the point is exceptionally well taken. Why didn't Windows fix my pet peeve? Yep, it happens. We all have our little annoyances with Windows, and for some of us, those annoyances aren't very little at all. They're the things we think are so important we don't understand why they've been the way they've been for maybe decades. Why didn't Windows fix my pet peeve talks about exactly why. The answer might surprise you, and to be honest, chances are it'll probably frustrate you a little bit too. How important is it to seek out and take updates is an article I wrote recently because somebody was asking if updates are so important, and Lord knows I certainly recommend taking updates on a regular basis. How important is it that we be proactive about it? In other words, do I have to actively go out and keep checking for updates? Checking and checking and checking? The answer, fortunately, is very pragmatic. In this week's TEH podcast, Gary shared actually a surprisingly good experience with a cheap network extender, which I know is a problem people experience from time to time getting strong Wi-Fi in various places in their house. I muse a little bit on the future of cinema and theaters after having watched the most recent Star Wars movie here at home last week for the first time. Our guest Kay Savitz also talked about online gaming in the sense that if we're going to be using Zoom for all these online meetings, you know what? Having game night virtually isn't such a bad idea either. Naturally, all that and more in the most recent edition of the TEH Podcast. That's up to episode number 97. A quick reminder that for patrons at a certain level, the Ask Leo tip of the day is one of the benefits you get. It comes out 5 days a week. Each has a tip that's intended to maybe expose something in Windows or technology that you've not been familiar with, or just otherwise make using your technology a little bit more interesting. If you look down at the bottom of the newsletter each week, I list the tips that were published the preceding week. I've also started publishing some of the older tips publicly, so you don't need to be a patron to see those. Anyway, links to that and more information about being a patron are in the newsletter this week. As always, thanks for being here. I hope you find it all helpful, useful. Stay safe, be kind, take care.